Oh, wow. What is up? We have a trade deal. We finally have one. We got one, I think. I think this is a real one.
Well, thank you very much. It's a beautiful Sunday in Scotland, and we thought we could cut things short and certainly travel distance, right, by having our meeting here. So we discussed options, and it's an honor to have the President of the European Union with us. Ursula's been really done a terrific job for them, not for us, but she's done a great job. And she's highly respected by us also. And we look forward to talking to see if we can do something. We've had a very good relationship over the years, but it's been a very one-sided transaction, very unfair to the United States. And I think both sides want to see fairness, but it's been a very, very one-sided deal, and it shouldn't be. And so we're here with her very brilliant staff, and hopefully we'll resolve a few issues. But it's a great honor. You know, we just built this ballroom, and we're building a great ballroom at the White House. The White House has wanted a ballroom for 150 years, but they never had a real estate person in it.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much. European Union, biggest trade volume. It's a huge market, 800 we will have now. You're known as a tough negotiator and deal maker. What is in front? And fair. And what is in front of us?
That's less important.
If we are successful, I think it would be the biggest deal each of us has ever struck. So I'm very much...
Things are 750 billion.
Wait! It's doing the thing. Hold on. Why just like enable or disable or re-able or whatever this? And
I pay for myself.
Normally it fixes itself. Hold on. Oh wait, there it was.
a heavy lift.
Things are 750 billion. Those things are 750 billion, 600 billion, opening up the country. We are agreeing that the tariff straight across for automobiles and everything else will be a straight across tariff of 15%.
Ugh. Okay.
I have a question for the EU Commission President. What are the U.S. concessions? What is the U.S. giving up in the deal?
So the starting point was an imbalance, a surplus on our side and a deficit on the U.S. side. And we wanted to rebalance the trade relation. And we wanted to do it in a way that trade goes on between the two of us across the Atlantic, because the two biggest economies should have a good trade flow between us. And I think we hit exactly the point we wanted to find. Rebalance.
I have a question.
So we're starting from the assumption that a trade deficit is necessarily a bad thing that needs to be ameliorated with tariffs. Trade deficit just means that somebody buys more from somebody else and they buy from them. It's not necessarily bad. There's a lot of other things that currency can be used for in the other country. For instance, like buying U.S. debt to keep our interest rates low on our debt. But it sounds like we're starting from that perspective that the trade needs to be balanced, which means there's probably going to be a whole bunch of weird distortionary things that have to be done in order to balance the trade, because obviously organically Americans are strong consumers and would buy more otherwise.
I think they're going to end up in the same place. You might as well go there quicker. And the other thing I say to Europe, we will not allow a windmill to be built in the United States. They're killing us. They're killing the beauty of our scenery, our valleys, our beautiful plains. And I'm not talking about airplanes. I'm talking about beautiful plains, beautiful areas in the United States. And you look up and you see windmills all over the place.
Why does Trump have the power to do this? Isn't Congress the only branch of government allowed to levy taxes? Yes, Trump does not have the power to do this. This is clearly and plainly unconstitutional and a usurpation of power from the Congress. However, the Congress grants the president the ability to set tariffs in times of national emergency using the, what's the name of the act? Emergency Presidential, is it just the Emergency Powers Act? Or it might be the National Emergencies Act, which is the reason why, basically, as stupid as it is, executive order declaring national emergency. Donald Trump says that our trade, this sounds so stupid, but Donald Trump says that our trade deficit is a national emergency. And because it's a national emergency, he can manipulate tariffs to to alleviate that national emergency. President Trump is invoking his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977 to address the national emergency posed by the large and persistent trade deficits that is driven by the absence of reciprocity in our trade relationships and other harmful policies like currency manipulation and exorbitant value-added taxes perpetuated by other countries. This is the job of the Congress to ratify trade deals. It is not the job of the president. This is obviously and plainly unconstitutional. It's obviously and plainly taking power from the Congress. And it's obviously and plainly a bad thing that one man can unilaterally write new trade deals for the United States. One, the trade deals might be bad, but two, more importantly, the trade deals undermine your confidence in the United States to abide by any trade deals. As we've seen now, if you were trading for 4 years under Biden, you can't trust that the next president isn't just going to undo all the trade like Donald Trump just did. And who's to say that the next president that comes in that's a Democrat doesn't undo all of Trump's trade policy? This is just clearly and obviously a stupid approach to trade. Even if you agree with Trump's trade policies, it should have been done through the Congress, but here we are.
It's a horrible thing. It's the most expensive form of energy. It's no good. They're made in China, almost all of them. When they start to rust and rot in 8 years, you can't really turn them off. You can't bury them. They won't let you bury the propellers, you know, the props, because there's a certain type of fiber that doesn't go well with the land. That's what they say. The environmentalists say you can't bury them.
What the fuck is his problem with windmills? Everything in the United States is politically coded now. You know this. So green energy is gay and weak and trans. So we have to fight against all forms of green energy whenever we can. Windmills are gay and they kill birds and they ruin everything. And actually the most masculine and heterosexual and straight manly thing that you can do is mine coal, which is why he's obsessed with the idea of clean coal and mining coal and drill baby drill, because those are masculine, manly forms of energy. I wish there was a better explanation for this, but there simply is not.
Because the fiber doesn't go well with the land. In other words, if you bury it, it will harm our soil. The whole thing is a con job. It's very expensive.
Also, apparently they put up windmills outside one of his golf courses, and that made him mad too. But
the Massachusetts area, that over the last 20 years had 1 or 2 whales wash ashore, and over the last short period of time, they had 18. Okay? Because it's driving them loco. It's driving them crazy. Now, windmills will not come. The Massachusetts
heavy lifting, but now
News Sunday. Mr. Secretary, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Great to be here.
Okay, August 1st, that deadline is coming within a matter of days. Will there be any more grace period, any more extensions, and what deals are closest to getting done at this point?
Okay, so no extensions, no more grace periods. August 1st, the tariffs are set. They'll go into place. Customs will start collecting the money, and off we go. Obviously, after August 1st, people can still talk to President Trump. I mean, he's always willing to listen. And between now and then, I think the president's going to talk to a lot of people. Whether they can make him happy is another question, but the president's definitely willing to negotiate and talk to the big economies.
Mr. Secretary, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Great to be here.
Okay, August 1st, that deadline is coming within a matter of days. Will there be any more grace period, any more extensions, and what deals are closest to getting done at this point?
Okay, so no extensions, no more grace periods. August 1st, the tariffs are set. They'll go into place. Customs will start collecting the money, and off we go. Obviously, after August 1st, people can still talk to President Trump. I mean, he's always willing to listen. And between now and then, I think the president's going to talk to a lot of people. Whether they can make him happy is another question.
okay, no more extensions. This time for real, for real. For real, for real, for real. Piers Morgan is Wednesday.
it keeps it even. Everybody respects it. It's going to be a lot of jobs for here and great for America. And, in terms of even the relationship, our relationship is unparalleled, but it keeps it even closer. When you're able to have a good trade deal, it keeps it even closer.
The entire German media is saying the EU capitulated before Trump and then he made a good deal. I don't know how to feel about it. Probably better than no deal. I mean, remember, the conservative mindset, I don't know if the conservatives are like this in Europe or if the conservatives are like this everywhere. I know in the United States they're like this. Conservatives view everything as a zero-sum game. So if a conservative walks into a room and 5 people are playing Monopoly and they're happy, and the conservative wants to play video games with his 4 friends, the conservative would go over and trash the Monopoly game because he would think that my friends can't have fun playing video games if these people over here having fun playing Monopoly. For a conservative, everything in life is zero-sum, and if somebody else is winning, that means you're losing. It explains their view on immigrants, on trade, on economics in general, on blue states and red states and everything. Conservatives just don't like it when, if they feel like they're not doing well enough and other people are doing well, then they feel like it's because those people are doing well that they're not doing well enough. So it's always a zero-sum game. So from Trump's perspective, if he can fuck over the European Union a little bit with a trade deal, then it's good for us, because if they're losing, then we must be winning. But what conservatives can't conceptualize is that you can actually do things where all sides are losing. Generally, voluntary trade is beneficial for all sides. If a guy is making a whole bunch of coats and another guy is raising a whole bunch of chickens, the guy that gives away a chicken to the guy that's making the coats is not losing a lot. And the guy that's giving away the coat to the guy that has the chickens is not losing a lot, right? There's a marginal utility to both of these items. One less coat for the coat maker doesn't mean anything, and one more chicken when he has no chickens means a lot. And the guy that's losing a chicken when he has a lot of chickens means nothing, but gaining one coat when he has none means a lot. Trade is generally mutually beneficial if people are doing it voluntarily. But conservatives just don't believe in that concept or don't understand it. They would know it intuitively if they saw it, because everybody engages in trade. When you go to a store, you make that decision every single time. When you give $10 to a cashier, you're deciding that your $10 worth of labor is worth less than the thing that you're buying, which is why you're exchanging for it. But it's just a conservative approach to everything right now.
Whiskey? Well, we'll talk about that. I didn't know whiskey was a problem. I'm not a big whiskey drinker, but maybe I should be when I'm over here. Maybe I'll have some whiskey today. Well, we're going to take a look at it. We'll take a look. We want to make the Prime Minister happy. We want to make, by the way, your First Lady, I would say First Lady, she's a respected person all over the United States. I don't know what he's doing, but she's very respected. As respected as him. I don't want to say more, I'll get myself in trouble. But she's a great woman and very highly respected. Yeah, well, we've, as you know, given a lot of money to Gaza for food and everything else. A lot of that money is stolen by Hamas, and a lot of the food is stolen. But we're very much involved, and I think it's one of the main reasons for our meeting today.
Yeah, we're going to be discussing it today.
We'll be talking about Gaza. Well, we want to get it going, but as you know, with Cambodia, they just announced a very big peace. That was going to be a very bad war, and so we're honored we got involved, and it's essentially settled. I think they're going to be settling it today, so it went for a few days. That was going to go on for years. That could have gone on for years. Millions of people could have been killed. We ended the war, and we're very happy about it.
I like how every single thing that happens around the world, if it's bad and it starts, it's because of something Biden did, but every time a thing ends and it's good, it's because Trump somehow ended it. I don't even know.
Says that recognising the Palestinian state would be a concrete step towards a lasting peace. Do you agree with this position?
Well, I'm not going to take a position. I don't mind him taking a position. I'm looking for getting people fed right now. To me, that's the #1 position, because you have a lot of starving people. You have people that, the United States recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we gave $60 million. That's a lot of money. No other nation gave money. I know the Prime Minister would if he knew about it, and he really knows about it now because we're going to be discussing it. But we gave $60 million. Nobody said even thank you. Thanks. Somebody should say thank you. But other nations are going to have to step up. When I spoke to Ursula yesterday, she said that the European nations are going to step up very substantially too.
Can you talk the importance of free speech today?
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Well, what's your advice on the small boats crisis in this country? How would you deal with it? What's your advice on dealing with the small boats crisis in this country?
What is it?
It's about the boats coming over the channel, so we're taking a lot of action to stop people coming over the channel who shouldn't be here, stopping them coming in the first place.
Well, immigration is a big factor, and I think, frankly, if they're coming from other countries and you don't know who they are, and are they coming from prisons? We have them where they came in from prisons. We're moving them all out. We had a border.
President, what about Russia and Ukraine? You're talking about ceasefires. What's the latest?
I would have said 5 times we would have had a deal. I've spoken to President Putin a lot.
Why are Lutnick, Stephen Miller, etc. doing this? Surely they're aware these policies don't work. Do they have an esoteric vision for America, or do they have some secret financial motive? It really depends on who you're talking about. Stephen Miller, I think, is ideologically very possessed. Like, he's like an authoritarian, fasci-esque person. So I think he's very ideologically like committed to, even if the United States is hurt a bit, he's okay with enforcing his vision of the United States. Lutnick seems like an opportunist. I can't tell with him. I've not heard enough to know if he's like actually a dipshit or not. But
I got along with him very well, but fine.
YouTube chat is like Destiny's Child. Did you use the weird stepkid who argues with the fridge? And Kick chat is the raccoon who feeds out of pity. Wow, hater.
5 times, and every time 4 times maybe, but we've had discussions. You and I have had discussions. Yeah. We thought we had that settled numerous times. And then President Putin goes out and starts launching rockets into some city.
Crazy.
Like Kiev, and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or whatever. You have bodies lying all over the street. And I say, that's not the way to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in President Putin. Very disappointed in him. So we're going to have to look, and I'm going to reduce that 50 days that I gave him to a lesser number because I think I already know the answer what's going to happen. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Why do other PMs and presidents suck up to Trump constantly? I don't think I've seen any EU leaders other than Zelensky speak out against him. I mean, like, you're kind of in a fucked spot. It's hard. I think that the rest of the world, I think it's what I said before, and nothing's moved me off this spot, that, like, everybody is kind of thinking that America is done leading the world, but nobody really wants to believe that. I think everybody is still kind of waiting to wake up from the nightmare that is Donald Trump, and it just hasn't happened yet. And there hasn't been a European country or group of countries that have stepped up and have been like, you know what, we are really breaking from the United States and we're going to do our own thing. Everybody's just kind of waiting for the nightmare to end. It might be like Trump is going to be gone in 4 years and we can go back to some semblance of sanity, maybe. Yeah, that's the guess, but do you think Europe will be the new leader of the free world? So one of the things that I've said before, this is a very tenuous grasp on history, but I think that America has just been very lucky in our geographic and historical position to lead Europe because we're far away from them and we have our own country and history that doesn't put us in conflict with a bunch of Europeans individually. In a way, I think that our ignorance to history and our lack of appreciation for the differences across the continent of Europe kind of make us a better friend to Europe because we don't generally favor one side over the other because we don't really know the differences between them. That's why you hear Americans say like Europeans so much. I'm not sure for Europe to lead itself means that all of those weird histories and all of those tensions between the countries, between the France and everybody else, between maybe Germany and everybody else, that stuff might come out a lot more. And I don't know how willingly even the European Union would subject itself to heavy German or French leadership versus the United States, who's like, well, what are you going to do? They're the U.S., they're across the ocean, they got the biggest military, I guess we all have to fall in line. But I don't know, maybe not.
But the president's definitely willing to negotiate and talk to the big economies.
Mr. Secretary, welcome back to Fox News.
Would you like to say?
Jesus, this guy's doing interviews like crazy.
Will you go to London, or are you worried it's no longer about Brexit?
About what?
Will you visit London during the state visit?
I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. But the nasty person, I think he's done. I think
he's a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Would you go to London, or are you worried it's no longer about Brexit?
About what?
Meaning he saw a bad thing on Twitter about London, but okay. Or because he just doesn't like the mayor, yeah. Personally. Sweeping changes are coming to the world's most powerful central bank. President Donald Trump and his top advisors have said. And they're already starting to make good on that promise. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent last week made it clear that the Trump admin intends to shake up the Federal Reserve, just as it has done with the rest of the federal government. Change at the central bank will accelerate once Chair Jerome Powell steps aside at the end of his term in May 2026, or earlier if he resigns or Trump manages to fire him. Those changes include the rules that impact the largest U.S. banks, which are already being reviewed, and on the Fed's workforce of tens of thousands across the country. What we need to do is examine the entire Federal Reserve institution and whether they have been successful, Bessent told CNBC. On July 21st, all these PhDs over there, I don't know what they do. Jesus. This is like universal basic income for academic economists, he said. Nice, good one. Cutting down on bank regulations. In June, Trump began to etch the legacy of his second term on the Fed by elevating Michelle Bowman to lead banking regulation as a vice chair on the central bank's board of governors. She had been a member of the board since 2018. Yeah, because certainly nothing happened 15 years ago that would have caused us to revisit banking regulations, right? Cornerstone of Trump's economic agenda is to slash regulations, and Bowman is widely expected to deliver on that goal when it comes to the banking industry. She's already begun to do exactly that. The Fed is in the process of revisiting and easing a raft of banking rules that came about in the aftermath of the global financial crisis of 2008. For example, the Fed last month, after Bowman assumed her new role, proposed an overhaul of how much buffer global banks must have against their total leverage or assets that carry some risk, such as loans and treasury holdings. The board approved the proposal in late June. Nice.
Welcome back. Joining me now is House Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Speaker Johnson, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Great to be with you.
Well, it is great to have you. You just heard my conversation with Congressman Massey, Congressman Khanna. So let me start off with this question. Why did you adjourn the House early? And does it run the risk of feeding the perception that there's something to hide in the Epstein matter?
So they adjourned the House early just because they don't want to talk about the Epstein shit anymore, right? It's actually so unbelievable, but...
Look, these are all important questions. Let me be absolutely clear, as we have been from the very beginning. House Republicans insist upon the release of all credible evidence and information related to Epstein in any way. But we are also insisting...
all credible.
...upon the protection of innocent victims. And our concern is that the Massey and Khanna discharge petition is...
I'm just coming into stream, but I have a question regarding healthcare. Do you think that the costs that people complain about in regards to healthcare are more the fault of the hospitals and doctors themselves rather than the insurance companies? So the thing that I like to stress over and over, if you actually want to understand any industry, is every single player at every single part of a chain of consumption is trying to maximize for themselves. So the reason why healthcare is so expensive is because customers want the most they can get for the least amount of money. Insurance companies want to get the most premiums they can while paying out the least possible within regulation to hospitals. Hospitals want to get the most amount of money for their administrators, their owners, for their services. Doctors want to get the most amount of money for the services that they provide. Like every single person along the way, pharmaceutical company, like everybody wants to extract the most money they can. That's just an ordinary part of any supply chain. There's nothing unique in healthcare as opposed to food delivery or not delivery, but like food production or clothing or housing or anything else. It's just how everything goes. Yeah.
Upon the protection of innocent victims. And our concern is that the Massey and Khanna discharge petition is reckless in the way that it is drafted and presented. It does not adequately include those protections, and I can explain all the details of that. Well, the important thing on the timing, to answer that question first, is that we did not do anything to end the term of Congress early. The Massey-Khanna discharge petition was filed so that it would not ripen until a day after Congress had previously been scheduled for almost a year to be out of session and in the district work period for August, and that is the timing of it. So what we did do this week is end the chaos in the Rules Committee, because the Democrats are trying to use this in a shameless manner for political purposes, quite obviously. They hijacked the Rules Committee, and they tried to turn it into an Epstein hearing. That's not what the Rules Committee is about. So that's why the floor votes ended on Wednesday instead of Thursday. But the work of Congress continues, and the...
Which is why healthcare should be nationalized. Rent-seeking behavior and things that are life or death is bad. So this is a super common misconception, and that is just an incorrect statement. Anybody that says that, you should just ignore everything they have to say about economics, okay? Having things that are life or death has nothing to do with whether or not a free market versus a government should provide for them, or it should have very, very little to do with it. The only thing that we should look to see whether or not a government versus the private industry should provide for something is to see how effectively each party does it. That's it. food is life or death. But food is largely handled by the private markets. And for the most part, it does a good job. Same thing with like clothes are kind of like a necessity, life or death, kind of, right? Whether or not you have any clothes or not. But like the free market deals with that pretty well. Whether or not something deals with something pretty well, you know, like is it doing what we want it to do is the question, not like is it life or death.
Schedule of Congress was published well over a year ago, December of 2024. So none of this was a surprise. And Khanna and Massey could have brought their discharge petition a day earlier and prevented that, or as noted earlier, anytime over the last 4 years. They did not do it during the Biden administration, and that's an important point for everybody to note.
But, Mr. Speaker, it's not just Republicans supporting this. It's 11, not just Democrats, it's 11 Republicans as well. Let me just ask you, because I hear you saying that, yes, the files should be made public while protecting the victims. Let me just ask you, though, should all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein be released and made public?
He's just going to say the credible ones, because remember, they never lie. They just kind of like change the definitions of all the words that they're using, so they're always technically telling the truth. They just redefine what the words mean in the prior statements they've made.
Yes, I agree with President Trump, with the Department of Justice, with the FBI, that you need all credible evidence and information out there.
Credible evidence, not the uncredible evidence.
That word credible is important. And why? Because you have to protect innocent people's names and reputations.
Then why does no one complain about private farmers and everybody complains about the healthcare industry? I'm not American. Can you explain? Because people do complain about food in the United States all the time. For one, some people say it's too sugary, or some people say that we don't have, RFK's whole thing is fighting against our quote unquote food industry. So I wouldn't say that nobody complains about the food industry, but also the food industry is super ultra subsidized as well. You know, farmers get a ton of subsidies for their crops and everything.
Out there. That word credible is important. And why? Because you have to protect innocent people's names and reputations whose names might be, as you noted at the outset of the program, intertwined into all these files. This has been a long legal process. There's a reason, for example, that grand jury materials are protected under the federal rules of criminal procedure, because they're not to be put out. See, the Massey and Khanna discharge petition would require the release. They would require the DOJ and FBI to release information that they know is false, that is based on lies and rumors, and was not even credible enough to be entered into the court proceedings. And that would be a dangerous thing. Our main concern here, though, is the protection of the innocent victims. I mean, these are minors in many cases who were subjected to unspeakable crimes, abject evil. They've already suffered great harm. We do not need their names being unmasked. The Massey and the Khanna discharge petition does not have adequate protections. For example, in the way that it was drafted, they cite that they don't want child abuse, sex abuse information uncovered, but they
like nothing has anything to do with the victims in this. There's plenty of information that you could release in redacted form that wouldn't implicate any victims or speak to specific things about any victims. So this is always like a red herring when they bring this up. Would a high market entry, low volatility in demand, and only a handful of companies existing to provide a service be indicative of a market that might be better suited to be nationalized? I mean, maybe. It would depend on the market, possibly.
cite the wrong provision of the federal code, and so it makes it unworkable. It requires the DOJ to release grand jury testimony. They are prohibited by law from doing so. So it is not the right approach. There is another approach out there. The House Republicans on the Rules Committee have a resolution that is well drafted, that is thoughtfully drafted by lawyers that would make this workable. That's the approach. We have to protect the innocent. We'll do it at all costs.
They do say that they want victims' names redacted, though, just to be clear. Let me move on to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yes, but their language doesn't adequately produce that. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, let me move on to
QT. Sudan, Myanmar are larger humanitarian crises than Gaza. They have each received significantly less aid from humanitarian orgs, both conflict zones. So why less global care? Will you research these? Nope. Tell me when white people or Jews are doing it, and then I'll give a fuck. If you want to look to some really bad shit, you can also look to Sudan. Also not good.
Ghislaine Maxwell. As you know, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Attorney General spent 2 days interviewing her. She, of course, has been convicted of grooming, recruiting, abusing young teenage girls, along with Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. Speaker, Maxwell's attorney said she answered all questions honestly and truthfully. But do you think that Ghislaine Maxwell can be trusted?
Well, I mean, look, it's a good question. I hope so. I hope that she would want to come clean. We certainly are interested in knowing everything that she knows. And as you'll note, in our House Republican majority...
When Econoboy debate, when we finish our news, we'll go over all that shit. Jesus.
We're working towards that. Chairman Comer and our Oversight Committee has already issued their own subpoena. They want to bring in Ghislaine Maxwell as well. I hope she's telling the truth. She is convicted. She is serving a 20-year sentence for child sex trafficking.
For now.
Her character is in some question. But if she wants to come clean now, that would be a great service to the country. And we'd like to know every single bit of information that she has. I certainly hope she's telling the truth.
Well, listen, this week, President Trump didn't rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. Of course, that's one of the big questions looming over all of this. So let me put this to you, Mr. Speaker. Would you support a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a decision of the president. He said he had not adequately considered that. I won't get in front of him. That's not my lane. My lane is to help direct and control the House of Representatives and use every tool within our arsenal to get to the truth. I'm going to say this as clearly and plainly and repeatedly as I can over and over. We are for maximum disclosure. We want all transparency. I trust the American people. I and the House Republicans believe that they should have all this information to be able to determine what they will. But we have to protect the innocent. And that's the only safeguard here that we've got to be diligent about. And I'm insistent upon doing so.
Well, I guess my question is, are you open to a pardon or commutation? I mean, Mr. Speaker, the victims referred to Maxwell as Epstein's right-hand woman. Here's what one victim who testified under a pseudonym told the court at sentencing, quote, "The many acts that were perpetrated on me by Epstein, including rape, strangulation, and sexual assault, were never consensual and would not have occurred had it not been for the cunning and premeditated role Ghislaine Maxwell played." Is that someone deserving of a pardon or commutation in any circumstance, Mr. Speaker?
If you're asking my opinion, I think 20 years was a pittance. I think she should have a life sentence at least. I mean, think of all these unspeakable crimes, and as you noted earlier, probably 1,000 victims. I mean, it's hard to put into words how evil this was, and that she orchestrated it and was a big part of it. At least under the criminal sanction, I think is an unforgivable thing. So, again, not my decision, but I have great pause about that, as any reasonable person would.
Two more critical topics to get to with you, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about what has been called the Big Beautiful Bill. In June, you told me the bill would not cut Medicaid, but 2 Republican senators ultimately voted against it because of what they thought were cuts to Medicaid. And Senator Josh Hawley is already out proposing legislation to actually roll back some of the Medicaid cuts that he just voted for. Did the Medicaid cuts go too far, Mr. Speaker?
The bill does not cut Medicaid. The One Big Beautiful Bill does not cut Medicaid. What it does is strengthen the program. And we talked about this, Kristen, is that the problem is there's a high degree of fraud, waste, and abuse in that program. I'm talking about tens of billions of dollars every year. What we did is we went in to go in and fix that. We introduced work requirements, which is a wildly popular notion in public opinion polling because it makes sense. Medicaid is a safety net program. It is intended for the elderly, the disabled, young, single, pregnant women, young mothers. And those resources are being drained because you had able-bodied young men, for example, with no dependents who are riding the wagon. That's not right. It's morally wrong.
Never numbers, never, like amount spent on these people, never any exact things given, but...
And it doesn't comport with the law. So what we did in our Big Beautiful Bill is we went in to carve those guys out of that program. They have work requirements now, 20 hours a week. They either have to be working, looking for a job in a work training program or volunteering in their community, which is good for them and their surroundings. We find dignity in our work. We're proud of that reform. And by the way, there was a Harris and Harvard poll that came out about 2 weeks ago. And they looked at 17 of the 21 primary provisions in that Big Beautiful Bill. And 17 out of 21 are majority support in the public. And that's after the onslaught of the mainstream media and Democrats lying about the bill. So we're excited to go out into our districts in August and tell the truth.
But Mr. Speaker, Josh Hawley says he is worried about cuts to payments and Medicaid reimbursements. Why would he be introducing a bill to roll back cuts in Medicaid if there were no cuts in Medicaid? He says the people in his state are going to suffer.
They're not cuts. They were just eligibility changes.
I haven't talked to my friend Josh Hawley about his legislation. I'm not sure what that's directed to, but I will tell you that the One Big Beautiful Bill safeguards the program. It strengthens it. It makes sure that Medicaid will be there for those who actually need it and who the law is intended to provide for. It is not for illegal aliens. We kick them off. It's not for people who are gaming the system. We kick them off. And it's not for people who should be working. They have to be able to prove that they're in one of these programs in order to get those benefits. And I think taxpayers will be served very well by that. But everything else in the bill is wildly popular as well.
Let me ask you about a critical issue on the world stage. The world has been watching what has been unfolding in Gaza. We are going to show some of these pictures. They're very disturbing, Mr. Speaker. Of course, this humanitarian crisis, children starving to death. Israel has now paused military operations amid the international outcry over this hunger crisis. Are Israel's actions too little too late, Mr. Speaker?
The images are disturbing and heartbreaking. We all want a peace there in that region. President Trump is trying to forge that, and we support it 100%. I will tell you that I've spoken to my friend Ambassador Leiter, the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., and to other Israeli officials. This is important to note. Israel, since this war, spoken to my friend Ambassador Leiter, the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., and to other Israeli officials. This is important to note. Israel, since this war began, has supplied over 94,000 truckloads full of food. It's enough food to feed 2 million people for 2 years, trying to get that into Gaza. But Hamas has stolen the food. A huge...
All of it? What the fuck? What? Is it the, like, Hamas? Is it them?
In fact, in 2024, the numbers are that Hamas profited over $500 million in stolen food aid that was supposed to go to these poor people who needed it. That's half of their budget. So this is a broken system. The UN needs to work with Israel to make sure that the food is getting to the people that need it most. The IDF, I'm told as recently as this morning, will begin tomorrow in opening new channels of distribution to get it to those people who are desperately in need. That's Israel's intention, that's the U.S.'s intention, and the UN as well.
All right, Mr. Speaker, we are out of time. We should note the New York Times just yesterday did report that the IDF never found proof that Hamas had systematically stolen deliveries of aid provided by the UN and other groups. We do really appreciate your joining us, and I hear you defending the Israeli position on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You got it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated.
Thank you. Damn. Not to be mean or personal. Has this guy chubbed out a little bit?
Based on lies and falsehoods. So, yeah, I'm very familiar with it. What you don't seem to acknowledge is there's something new being found. Yeah. Rather than reinventing the wheel here, let's go back to a special counsel model to look at this something new. The something new is statements by President Obama. I don't like your analysis. Russia wasn't involved here in 2016.
Senator, you're saying there's something new. This report goes back to 2020. It's 5 years old. There's actually nothing new in this report and nothing that changes any conclusion. But I want to talk about Gaza.
Turned over
Senator.
is new to me.
Senator,
it's new to me.
But Senator,
you're trying to sweep this stuff under the rug, and that's not right.
But Senator, you know that at the time you said you did believe the assessments and the multiple investigations. But let me move on to Gaza. Let's talk about Gaza, Senator, because this is so important. As I just talked.
Whatever he said. Yeah, whatever.
Senator, because this is so important.
Whatever. Whatever. Whatever.
Senator, because this is so important.
Whatever. 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 True. King. Okay. Can I just say, just a PSA, okay? Because a lot of you guys are mega fucking autistic, okay? Here's a question. Let's say that somebody asks you, do you think it would feel good for somebody to shove scissors in your eye? And you go, no, fuck no. I do not want anything stabbing me in the eye, okay? And then let's say the person says, okay, I get it. And then let's say 10 minutes later, your friend says, what about a knife in your eye? Do you agree that that would be a mega retarded autistic thing to ask? That would be incredibly stupid, right? It's pretty obvious that they don't want scissors in their eye, that they wouldn't want a knife in their eye, right? So can somebody explain to me why the disgusting seafood enjoyers always do this thing where like, oh, do you like seafood? And you're like, no, I don't. And like, oh, what about like sushi? What? Why do they ask that? Can somebody explain why seafood enjoyers ask that? Or is it, no, I don't like seafood, so I don't like sushi either. And they're like, oh, okay. What about like crab or like shellfish? What? Can somebody explain to me why they do this? God, I hate seafood enjoyers. Ah! They trigger the fuck out of me, okay?
Wasn't involved. What
Senator,
the hell happened? Let's get a special counsel.
Hold on, Senator. As you know, former President Obama has waited.
Remember what Lindsey Graham said about supporting Trump? Anybody remember that?
I'm not supporting.
You can now add, get this, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham to the list of Republicans who will not, repeat not, back Donald Trump, the party's presumptive presidential nominee. Here's the statement just released by Senator Graham. Let me read it to you. It says he cannot, in good conscience, support Donald Trump because I do not believe he is a reliable Republican conservative, nor has he displayed the judgment and temperament to serve as commander-in-chief. Very strong words from Lindsey Graham. I want to bring in Matea Goldar.
Remember that?
I'm not supporting Mr. Trump. I'm not supporting Hillary Clinton. These are two very flawed choices. I've been a lawyer all my life, and I've never heard anything like this before, to suggest that a judge can't fairly decide a case because of where his parents were born. It's a new low in a campaign with plenty of lows. I think it's un-American. I think it runs against who we are as a people, and I'll have no part of it. I think his comments were racist. I don't think that Donald Trump personally is a racist person, and that he wouldn't, he's not going to refuse to hire somebody because of the color of their skin or their background, but he's playing the race card. It's pretty clear to me that he's playing the race card here.
Crazy, huh?
To detract
Isn't that kind of
the substance
crazy?
Of the lawsuit.
Isn't that kind of crazy where these guys all were 10 years ago? Isn't that kind of weird?
Background of the judge. And I don't want to go there. Every person in the Republican Party has got to make their own decision. I'm going to focus on the House and Senate.
NBC's Ali Vitale is on Capitol Hill for us. And Ali, House is back in session next week. Talk about
Steve Bannon and Sebastian Gorka, not talking necessarily about politics. Distinctly last night on Hannity, I want to show you what he said.
Can we move forward without President Trump? The answer is no. I've always liked Liz Cheney, but she's made a determination that the Republican Party can't.
Oh, this was after Trump had his 4 years in office, and now
can't grow with President Trump. I've determined we can't grow without him.
And the argument that you're hearing here from people like Stefanik and others in House leadership is that Cheney can have her opinion, but they don't want her leading a party.
Kind of crazy, huh?
In through a spokesperson, he says that's just patently false. I actually spoke
wasn't involved. What the
Senator,
hell happened? Let's get a special counsel.
Hold on, Senator. As you know, former President Obama has weighed in through a spokesperson. He says that's just patently false. I actually spoke to Susan Miller, who's a former senior CIA officer who helped oversee the 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian interference. She says it's completely false that Obama or anyone else asked them to change or sway their investigation. She says they all, she says, and she's a Republican, says they all would have quit if that had happened. Senator, are you trying to rewrite history to distract from the Epstein matter, Senator?
No, I'm trying to let you know and the media know that we found something we didn't know before. Wasn't involved.
What did we find? What changed?
What you said at the time. Take a look.
Yep. The Russians did it. It was the Russians who tried to interfere in our election. Every member of the committee agrees it was the Russians. They didn't change the
Oh, no. Was he on that Senate Intelligence Committee that did that report? Uh-oh. Was that true?
But they did release information embarrassing to the Democratic Party. It did affect Hillary Clinton. There's only one person in Washington that I know of that has any doubt about what Russia did in our election, and it's President Trump.
Senator, are you now saying that you don't believe that Russia tried to interfere in the 2016 election?
Well, what I am saying is that you left a lot out here. It's called the Horowitz Report. It's the Mueller investigation was crooked and rotten to the core.
Really?
The Washington Post and the New York Times got a Pulitzer Prize for reporting on Trump's campaign's relationship with Russia. It was all BS. At the time, I didn't know any of that. At the time, I didn't know that they were manufacturing evidence to get FISA warrants. There was a confirmation bias. Durham didn't say there was no political bias. He said quite the opposite. He said every time a FISA warrant was sought in the Mueller world, they got it, and the errors made to get warrants in this space were a lot greater than they were in anything not involving Trump. But what I'm saying is that this is new evidence. This is something I didn't know, you didn't know, that in 2016, Obama suggested, I don't like the outcome that there's no evidence Russia was involved. Well, now we all say Russia was involved, but in 2016, they said Russia wasn't involved. What the hell happened? Let's get a special counsel.
Hold on, Senator. As you know, former President Obama has weighed in through a spokesperson. He says that's just patently false. I actually spoke to Susan Miller, who's a former senior CIA officer who helped oversee the 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian interference. She says it's completely false that Obama or anyone else asked them to change or sway their investigation. She says they all, she says, and she's a Republican, says they all would have quit if that had happened. Senator, are you trying to rewrite history to distract from the Epstein matter, Senator?
No, I'm trying to let you know and the media know that we found something we didn't know before.
I just can't believe they're reaching so hard with this republishing of the fucking Epstein shit. Like, if this doesn't catch on, do you think that we're going to get like a 9/11 was an inside job? We're re-releasing the, is it NIST? The National, what's the abbreviation for the, like the infrastructure review? Part of the federal government? What am I thinking of? The report, the big report on the buildings and everything. Report on 9/11 buildings falling. What's the name of the federal like branch or whatever? They did like the big report. I want to say, oh, it is NIST, N-I-S-T. The National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Democrats have also joined in on actually voting in favor of doing things like issuing subpoenas and whatnot. That creates a whole nother problem for Republican leadership, because if they do a discharge petition or something else, you're going to have all the Democrats on board, and that creates a whole nother set of worms for Speaker Johnson. I can tell you, I'm just telling you this, this is, but I also do think I totally buy what Guy is saying. I would also argue that part of what they're trying to do is they are trying to distract from this big issue of President Obama.
Sorry.
Obama's personal involvement in what was going on in targeting Donald Trump.
All right.
And that.
Okay.
From prosecution for all his official acts. There is no immunity for unofficial acts. Wow. So that takes you to this issue of presumptive immunity. Because what Barack Obama what he did wasn't within his official acts. What he did was he moved from his official acts. And he asked the CIA and the others to do something that was corrupt. Not part of his official act. Part of his official acts would be as if Obama ordered taking out a terrorist in Yemen, which he did.
Like, I don't even know what to say about this guy. Like, is he an idiot? Is he bad faith? Is he lying? Like, he's not even identifying the categories, 3 categories. It's core acts, it's official acts, it's unofficial acts. The Obama ordering anything from any agency would obviously be an official act. So presumptive immunity would be granted as per Roberts' ruling, the Supreme Court ruling on this. So you would have to overcome the presumptive immunity buffer to even probe any of those acts. Like, that's like all plainly obvious from the plain reading of the ruling. To try to pretend that Obama ordering some federal agency could be an unofficial, I mean, maybe if he ordered them to like pick up his dry cleaning, maybe.
And it turns out that he takes out the terrorist, but also kills his 15-year-old son, who's a U.S. citizen. Obama can't be prosecuted for that. That's part of his official acts. That's fine. But when
See, like, he's not even getting the categories right. You can still be prosecuted for your official acts. Official acts are things that are not exclusive and preclusive to the office of the president. It's the core powers that you can't be prosecuted for, according to Roberts and the Supreme Court. Official acts you theoretically could still be prosecuted for. You just have to overcome that presumptive immunity buffer.
If it's official acts, that's fine. But when a president of the United States says, I need a new assessment, effectively telling the agencies and the rest, I need to get Trump. That's not within your official action. So what would happen in court if they brought some charges? You would have this presumptive immunity allegation.
It's so funny because the argument that he's giving here is kind of like a common sense one that I would agree with. Like, the president probably shouldn't be able to just plainly order his cabinet members to just break the law, right? But remember, that's what Trump was granted presidential immunity for, was him ordering people underneath him, like Barr and everybody else, to break the fucking law, right? This is kind of where that immunity thing came from. It was a challenge to it was challenging the Jack Smith case, right? Was what that case was for? Where the criminal immunity came from. So the idea here that, like, well, the president probably shouldn't be able to plainly order his executive branch members to break the law, right? Well, yeah, that's what we all kind of said prior to that Supreme Court ruling. I would agree with you.
Allegation, and then you would have to overcome the presumption. So the people say there's absolute immunity when it comes to what this is alleging, what Toby Gabbard has released. There's not absolute immunity. There's presumptive immunity that can be overcome. So I explain this. Now, what else? They say, well, what crime was committed? And what about the statute of limitation? Now, this is pretty funny, coming from the people who went after Donald Trump for 2 years in the second massive Obama-Biden scandal.
Excuse me, but when you say what crime was committed, and you point to the people that went after Donald Trump, there were crimes listed. There were indictments, and you need crimes on indictments to actually charge somebody with something. And he was convicted, and you needed crimes to issue an indictment and convict somebody. So I don't know what he's saying here. I don't know what the joke is. Well, what crime did they do? Oh, that's funny. Didn't you guys say the same thing? No, we charged him with actual crimes. That's what an indictment is.
And that's this. You conduct an investigation. You don't need probable cause. You just need some reasonableness to think that some crimes have been committed by Obama, maybe as surrogates, maybe as staff and so forth, and you open your investigation, which is what the Department of Justice has done. We have these things that we call process crimes, right? Potential obstruction, false statements, destruction of records, and that sort of thing during the course of the investigation. So there's always that. There's no statute of limitations on that. And furthermore, there may be criminal activity that we're not aware of that specifically addresses what Obama did. We don't know. You know why we don't know? Nobody's ever asked them.
True. The Republicans have never gone in on trying to investigate every single Democrat for all of fucking history on every single crime they could have potentially committed in this universe or any other universe.
Have Democrats here on this committee, like AOC, like Jasmine Crockett, they of course downplay this and they say that it's political theater. Tell me what it's.
Kentucky is not setting their bets. Who else comes from Kentucky? Johnson. Mike Johnson comes from Kentucky. Comer is from Kentucky. Is there anybody else? Is Mitch McConnell from Kentucky? Jesus, what's going on there? That state's sending us a lot of highly questionable. Oh, Mike Johnson is Louisiana. Oh, is he? Oh, never mind. My bad. Okay. Wait, who else comes from Kentucky? Maybe I was just thinking of McConnell. Mike Johnson is a member of the U.S. House representing Louisiana's 4th Congressional District. Okay, just kidding.
Like, to try to conduct an investigation like this.
I can't get over the fact that Trump's fucking daughter-in-law is a Fox News employee. I can't get over that. I still can't get over this, that we just like accept this. It's just so crazy to me. What?
When, they're trying to have these viral moments attacking Republicans in here, you guys are trying to do a real investigation that's highly important to the future of the country.
It's almost impossible to conduct an investigation in this committee room. What we're doing with this investigation is we're conducting depositions and transcribed interviews. Every transcript will be released at the conclusion of the investigation, but we can't have a substantive hearing in this room because of the behavior of the Democrats. My job is to get the facts. We conduct investigations here. We can't prosecute anyone. We can't arrest anyone. At the conclusion of the investigation, we issue a report, and we'll deliver that report to Pam Bondi, the Attorney General.
Since you have Democrats here.
It's so cringy. You defend Israel for everything they do. You're almost as bad as a scientist in the opposite direction. Well, I'm a massive Israeli Jewish simp, and I hope one day they accept me because I want to go and pray at the Wailing Wall so that I can cry for my ancestors, my spiritual ancestors, the Jews.
Like they have never obsessed over anything before. Now, in the wake of the bombshell, new revelations.
Bombshell. Remember, this bombshell is nothing. This is the ultimate. This is a bigger test of faith than the Epstein shit. It's seeing if you can get everybody on board with the most nothing burger statement, literally, of all time. And if you can get all of them to try to amplify. They're trying so hard to make this work. They're trying to force this. This is the most cringe forced meme in the universe. They're trying so hard to get this to catch on. And like nobody gives a fuck. It's so stupid.
And declassifications about the origins of the Russia hoax. Oh, now the media lost all interest in Russia. I don't want to talk about it at all. For example, on ABC, NBC, CBS, here is all of the Russia hoax reporting from their nightly newscasts shortly after Tulsi Gabbard released this critical new information, new details, declassification that the Obama administration was involved in. Take a look.
The White House tried again to redirect focus onto a different subject, in this case.
For example, you denying the aid blocking and you saying that the Palestinian civilians intentionally get themselves shot on camera, unhinged. I mean, they do intentionally get themselves shot. That's like undeniable, right? If you just watch the video footage, it's undeniable what they're doing. Now, whether or not it's a good or bad way to approach doing propaganda, I mean, is up for you to decide. It's effective, right? It's gotten them a lot of attention over the past couple of years, for sure. It does seem there are aid problems going on right now inside Gaza. I think even Avi was tweeting about that. But the idea that they've been starving to death for 2 years, I think kind of undercuts right now the fact that they actually are having food problems. And now you guys literally have no vocabulary to discuss it because you've been saying it's like an IPC-5 starvation zone for 2 years. And you have nowhere else to go. You've already hit the ceiling on your starvation rhetoric, 2 years ago.
That the Obama administration was involved in. Take a look.
The White House tried again to redirect focus onto a different subject, in this case, how the Obama administration investigated potential Russian interference in the 2016 elections. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard walked reporters through her review of the matter and accused the former president of leading a coup against Trump. But past bipartisan congressional investigations and a special prosecutor found no such wrongdoing. President Obama's office calls the accusations ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction.
That is a weak attempt at reporting. 30 seconds of extremely biased coverage that barely even touched on what Director Gabbard actually revealed. 30 seconds.
The judge said prosecutors would need to launch a new case if they want that information. But there's an ongoing attempt to unseal grand jury evidence from the second federal Epstein case in New York.
Ed, the president said anytime a Republican is asked about Epstein, they should talk about Barack Obama. That basically was happening in the briefing room today.
That's right. The White House tried again to redirect focus onto a different subject, in this case, how the Obama administration investigated potential Russian interference in the 2016 elections.
President Trump woke up this morning in Scotland and immediately went to hit the links, teeing off at his Turnberry golf course. He's also meeting with top
Many top business leaders condemned Trump's tariff plan. Seeing the CEO of Nvidia call Trump's economic plan visionary is ridiculous. Why aren't more leaders calling him out for his nonsense? I don't know. I think maybe everything in the economy became too specialized. And now people just have no understanding of anything that's not outside of their incredibly narrow purview of business. I truly don't know. I can't. The whole tech world's obsession with Trump, I thought, maybe they all just followed Elon. But even Elon's obsession with Trump, I thought was incredibly fucking pathetic. So who knows?
European officials over his tariff policy and facing some international pressure on the desperate situation in Gaza. As overnight, Israel said it would open new aid corridors to ease the starvation there amid growing international outrage. Domestically, even though the president is thousands of miles away, he's still facing questions about the crisis that he and his administration set in motion that has outraged many of his supporters here at home. Demands by his base to see the full files of disgraced pedophile and sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, to some extent, it could be them just like sucking off Trump, too, because they don't want to obviously get on the bad side of this admin. That could be it as well, actually. That was unfair for me to say about the Nvidia CEO. I don't know if the Nvidia CEO said any retarded economic things. It could just be that when you are the sole person that everybody has to go through for to get reprieve from tariffs and everything, you kind of have to be on his good side. You don't want to start talking shit and have your entire company get fucking demolished. Especially, I would imagine Nvidia stock is probably fairly fragile, because I think a lot of that stock, is a mega uninformed take, but just because of how much they've exploded, I'm sure quite a bit of this stock is speculative. So the idea that you could say something bad to Trump and your shit would get mega fucked is probably a bigger fear. With this stock is absolutely speculative. Never mind. I can't believe I hedged like that. PE ratio of 56.65. This is an absolutely highly speculative stock at the moment. So yeah, I imagine any bad news from this admin could fuck over or cause it to tumble quite a bit, you know?
As he and his attorney general had previously pledged to do. Overnight, Trump threw out another wild threat that seemed...
Do you think the claims of genocide against Israel makes it difficult to criticize the government as the issue has been made all or nothing rather than the shades of gray that lie in between? Yeah, I mean, that's been a complaint I've made from the very start, is that, like, it also precludes your ability to negotiate with them or do anything, because who the fuck negotiates with a genocidal government? Like, if they're doing genocide, that's kind of wild, right? And it also removes all of the onus from the other party to do anything, right? Like, nobody is ever saying, like, I can't believe that all these people in Gaza are starving. Why hasn't Hamas released the hostages yet, right? Like, I feel like that would undermine Israel's position pretty significantly. If Hamas releases all of the hostages, now it's like, Israel, what the fuck are you doing? But they can keep kind of like pointing at stupid shit like that to say, like, well, sorry, this is kind of why we got to keep doing what we're doing. But I felt like if all the hostages were released, I feel like even internal pressure in Israel would cause a lot of that Gazan offensive to kind of collapse, or at least the support for it would be a lot more difficult. But what are you going to do?
His attorney general had previously pledged to do. Overnight, Trump threw out another wild threat that seemed perhaps designed to distract, saying that former Vice President Kamala Harris, Oprah Winfrey, and Beyonce should all be prosecuted over 2024 campaign events. But as Republican lawmakers head home for summer break, bracing themselves for demands from their constituents to see the files and for much, much more, it is not clear what Trump's strategy will accomplish when it comes to quieting those concerns. Joining us now is a close ally of President Trump, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen.
NVIDIA CEO is brilliant and seems very patriotic. By the way, NVIDIA is not speculative because the PE is a backward-looking ratio. You have to look at the PEG ratio. Price earnings to growth ratio, what it is and the formula. Is a stock's price to earnings ratio divided by the growth rate of its earnings for a specified time period. The PEG ratio is determining a stock's value, also factoring in the company's expected earnings growth. I've never even heard of this before. Okay.
from the great state of Oklahoma. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Something you said on the Senate floor a couple days ago.
Thanks for having me on, Jake.
Something you said on the Senate floor a couple days ago gained a lot of attention. You were arguing against a push by Democrats who were calling to release the Epstein files in full. Let's play what you said.
I'm sure this would be handled just like any other thing that they've tried to go after, like the baseless impeachments or the unbelievable amount of charges they've tried to file against the president. I'm sure
that have been filed, not just tried to be filed, but they were filed. There were indictments issued, but okay.
this would be handled the exact same way. What we're simply wanting to do here is give them cover.
Can you explain what you meant when you talked about giving cover there?
Well, Jake, what you're doing is you're taking a 30-second clip from about a 6-minute debate. And by the way, we also put forth a resolution to allow the judges to release the information from these grand juries. So this is political theater. If you listen to the whole debate, you'd clearly understand what we had been talking about was Pam Bondi and the president and Congress wants transparency. We want them to release the files. However, we can't make them release it because of separation of power. The judges, the judicial
separation of powers is very important right now. Whew.
branch, have the files and they have the documents. Every document that Pam Bondi has.
What is the quote? I feel like I've reached for this in the past. Where like they defy process and procedure whenever they feel like it's on the correct answer or whatever's on their side, but whenever they want to obfuscate, they will wrap themselves in process and procedure as much as possible. This guy's picture apparently on January 6th. Nice fucking dipshit.
Every document that the Cash Patel has, they have been heard by a grand jury. And we saw the judge in Florida say, no, she's not releasing it. We're waiting on the judges in New York to say, are you going to release it or do you not? We all want transparency. And what's funny about this is the Democrats want it too. But when I put forth my resolution calling on them to do the same thing, which is what I was meaning by that term, is that we're trying to agree with Pam Bondi and with President Trump that we want transparency, we want the files released. But when I put my resolution forth, guess what? The Democrats also denied the request. So it's interesting to me, though, Jake, that for the last 4 years underneath President Biden, not one Democrat asked for the files to be released. Now they're all about transparency. But yet President Trump is the most transparent president we've had. I mean, look, you wrote the book literally on the biggest cover-up from the Biden administration, the cover-up that the previous administration covered completely for President Biden the whole time he was in office. So transparency is what we're all about. But the Democrats are trying to distract from their awful record and from the questions they need to ask, like who was signing the executive orders as an auto pen, who was actually choosing to continue to run the Russian gate when we know it was a huge hoax, who was making the decisions at the White House, and they can't answer that, so they're deciding to run a distraction by this Epstein file when it's a big hoax, and the American people know it because they never said a word about it when Biden was in office.
But let's just take a step back here. The reason that we're here where we are is because for years, President Trump and the MAGA base and Trump's allies have been calling for the release of the Epstein files. And then after taking office, take a listen to what Attorney General Pam Bondi has been saying over the course of the past few months.
Clip ambush. Uh-oh.
What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names. Everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know. There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children.
Now the administration is saying they can't release this information. Now, I understand you're talking about a resolution you offered calling for the grand jury to release transcripts from the grand jury investigation into Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and a judge said no. But there's troves of information that the administration could release tomorrow if they wanted to, and they've been promising to, and they haven't.
Oh, Jake, that's not true. You know better than that too, because every piece of file that they have, every video, every document, every flight log has all been heard by a grand jury. They've all been seen by a grand jury, and we want the judges to release it. Pam Bondi has called on the judges to release it. Trump has called on them to release it, and the Congress has called on them to release it. But we can't because there's a true co-equal branches of government, so we can't force the judicial branch to do anything. All we can do is ask them to do it. We
I'm not talking about
that the judges would release it. Pam Bondi released it. No, there isn't, Jake. There isn't one piece of document that Cash Patel at the FBI or Pam Bondi in her office has that a grand jury hasn't seen. So everything that they have
she was talking about releasing this information
by the judges.
She was talking about releasing this information. She could release it tomorrow. She doesn't.
She was, but she can't. No. She can't release it until the judges release it, because if it's been heard by a grand jury, and Jake, you know this, if it's been heard by a grand jury, regardless if Pam Bondi has it or the FBI has it, the judge that overseeing the case that the grand jury listened to and saw the documentation and the evidence has to be released by the judge, and you know that.
Like, this is so fucking hilarious, right? They were willing to go, and they won this, by the way. Congratulations to our current Supreme Court. They were willing to go to the Supreme Court and say, actually, we kind of don't think injunctions are allowed. if they affect other people. We're going to kind of get rid of the ability for the federal government to like enjoin, large scale behavior from the federal government. Those all have to be filed as class action lawsuits. We're going to get rid of injunctions. Okay. Oh, cool. All right. And then it's like, what about releasing stuff from the grand jury that you guys have cried about releasing for 5 years? Well, actually, only the judge can make that decision, and there's absolutely nothing that we can do about that, and there's no way that we can challenge that. All we can do is say pretty please, and hope to God that the judge releases it, because we're utterly powerless to do anything in the meantime. Meanwhile, they will challenge every other, this is a president who's unilaterally invoked the Alien Enemies Act to say that we're at war with Venezuela to deport people. He's invoking random national emergencies so they can solo do trade policy for the entire United States. Congress gives all this power to him willingly. He said that he can fight judges in every single venue, in every single district across the United States for whatever crazy shit he wants to do. But when it comes to releasing stuff from a grand jury, actually there is a official policy and process, and we kind of have to just wait and see what the judge says on that one. Like, come on, give me a fucking break.
I don't think that that's correct. I think that the FBI and the Southern District of New York and the Southern District of Florida, and just because something has been shown before a grand jury, that doesn't mean it is only going to be, it can only be released to the public by a judge. If the FBI has it, they can release it.
Then why did the judge refuse to release the records?
He doesn't have to release his record. He's playing a word game too, right? You understand this? So this is like a word game. I wonder if they have like a Trump pump machine where every time they tell a lie or spin a story, they get to like stick their dick in the little like fucking semen milking machine at the end of the day in order to have their cummies from Donald Trump and this administration. Because I can't explain how else, right? I don't know if you understand what this guy is saying, right? For Jake Tapper, right? So the FBI does an investigation, and they have files and research, okay? And then from this investigation, the FBI might recommend to the DOJ, like, hey, DOJ, because they're part of the Department of Justice. They might recommend it to the Attorney General, right? They might say, hey, Attorney General, like maybe you should pursue this, okay? And then the Attorney General says, okay, sure, let's get a prosecutor together. We'll find a courthouse to file this in. And then a prosecutor will take this, I'm horribly misspelling all of this, and they'll take all of this information to a grand jury, and they'll say, okay, grand jury, we're going to present a bunch of evidence, and then we want you guys to decide whether or not you'll issue an indictment. And what the Republican is currently saying is like, well, we can't take this, what was the presentation to the grand jury, we can't release that. We need the permission of the judge that was overseeing that. And what Jake Tapper is saying, okay, hold on. Fuck the grand jury, fuck the prosecution. Why can't the Attorney General and the FBI just release what they have? Which they could. They could do that. Now, is that proper? I would argue, no, you should never do this. There's a whole bunch of good reasons why you would never want stuff like this released to the public. It's bullshit for a whole huge numbers of reasons. But, I mean, the fact that they've hyped up the Epstein stuff like this so much, yeah, fuck it, they should release it. Fuck them, Now they've made their bed, now they should lie in it. But for him to try to lie here and say, oh, well, they can't release what was shown to the grand jury, bullshit. The FBI can release what they found. They have the ability to do it. Trump literally said he could psychically declassify stuff to save him in Mar-a-Lago. Why can't the FBI release what they investigated on the Epstein stuff?
Shown before a grand jury, that doesn't mean it is only going to be, it can only be released to the public by a judge. If the FBI has it, they can release it.
Correct.
Then why did the judge refuse to release the records?
We don't need the judge's records. We just need what the FBI has.
Florida. Because once it's been heard in a case, it is a sealed case. It is sealed by the grand jury. And you have been through this. I don't know why we're even debating this, because if it is considered evidence in a case, then it is sealed.
The information that has been released,
bring a separate judge on and ask him the same question.
Grand jury hearings and transcripts, the judge has control over. Absolutely. That doesn't mean that everything that went into the grand jury is therefore locked from the public. It does not work that way. And that's why Attorney General Bondi was saying for months. Well, then tell me why for months she was saying that she's going to release the information tomorrow.
We made the assumption that the judges would release the order and allow the evidence that they had, that it could be heard. But it's all been sealed. And so if it's been a sealed...
Do you not think there are probably legitimate information in the Epstein case that could actually implicate Trump in things? Doesn't the public deserve to know? You absolutely do not want a world where investigators are unable to secure an indictment from a grand jury, so then investigators just dump everything out to the public. That is probably one of the greatest miscarriages of justice that could ever happen in the United States. Now, I very narrowly support it here just because it would be funny as fuck and because Republicans have kind of made their bet on this. But no, if you're getting investigated because there's some reasonable suspicion or whatever, and I don't even think you need reasonable suspicion. I don't know if you need any standard action to start an investigation on somebody. But if you're being investigated and ultimately, they find some information, it's not that great, they go to a grand jury, they can't really get an indictment or anything. For the FBI or for some local police department to say, oh, well, fuck it, we couldn't get an indictment. Here's all the information we found, by the way. You're basically assassinating this person in the court of public opinion, which is bullshit. We don't want our investigative bodies to be used that way. If they can't secure an indictment, then they shouldn't really release what they've investigated because they didn't find anything that came to the probable cause standard for issuing an indictment. Now, again, I think that in this case, you're talking about, I mean, the Republicans have hyped this up so much, fuck them, but.
Case, we can't release it.
What was all the stuff Bondi released before in those binders, if they weren't allowed to release anything? Yeah, good question. I think it was just information that had already basically been public.
Had that it could be heard, but it's all been sealed. And so if it's been a sealed case, we can't release it until the judges allow us to release it. And you would think common sense would play. That's why they asked for transparency. We want transparency. We want the judges to have transparency in this too. But
strong disagree. The public has a moral right to see evidence that doesn't meet the high beyond a reasonable doubt standard, but may affect their voting patterns under a lower standard. No, hold on. An indictment is not issued beyond a reasonable doubt. Indictment is just issued on probable cause. The reason why the public shouldn't want to see this or has a moral right to this is because all you're doing is you're saying, holy shit, we should just have every single candidate being investigated. You're asking for basically what Trump was trying to do with Hunter and Joe Biden, where he wanted people to, or what happened with fucking Hillary Clinton and Comey, right? Where they were doing an investigation. And you're like, oh, well, they should make public statements about the investigation, even if they don't actually issue an arrest warrant. It's like, well, hold on. Now we're just saying that every single newly elected person or a person running for office is going to be investigated indefinitely by the sitting president. That's not a good standard to have. You don't want that.
You would think common sense would play. That's why they asked for transparency. We want transparency. We want the judges to have transparency in this too. But remember, there was a plea deal that was struck in 2009, way before I was in office, way before Trump was even considering to be in office, way before Pam Bondi was in office, way before Kash Patel was director. 2009, there was a sweetheart plea deal that was made underneath the Obama administration. Way before Kash Patel was director, 2009, there was a sweetheart plea deal that was made underneath the Obama administration with Epstein, and that sweetheart has not been exposed.
No, it was 2000.
Well, when was the case heard?
It was 2008. It was the U.S. attorney at the time was a guy named Alex Acosta.
Remember, Alex Acosta, the guy that made that deal, went on to become Trump's labor secretary when he was in office. Not that anybody's talking about that, but
he was a Bush appointee. He went on to become President Trump's Secretary of Labor.
Okay, good job.
All took place in 2008.
Who was in office at the time?
2008, George W. Bush.
Who was in office at the time?
George W. Bush.
No, 2009 is when the case came out, and it was and Obama was in office at the time.
It's not true. But let me ask you a question, Deputy Attorney.
How can you just lie about that? How can you just how can that stand? He just lie about that. You should force a concession. I mean, I understand he would never come back on your show if you did that, but
Colonel Todd Blanche met this week with Epstein's accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, who was serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. After the meeting, Maxwell's attorney indicated to reporters that he hopes President Trump will give her a pardon. What do you think of that idea? Will it be a mistake for President Trump to pardon Maxwell? And do you think that she's credible?
I don't know enough about Maxwell or the conversation to even wait.
Oh, I don't know. Oh my God, he did it! I'm so sorry. I just want to apologize for releasing that hidden OP strat to make it more publicly known. I don't know if people are utilizing it more now. We just pay attention to it more, but it is the hidden OP strat for conservatives. I don't know anything about that. I don't know. I never heard anything about it. I don't know. I've never heard about that.
I don't know enough about Maxwell or the conversation to even weigh in on that. But I'll go back to what you're saying about it wasn't true. The case was sealed in 2009. That's absolutely true. It was heard in 2008. It was sealed in 2009.
The point is that the sweetheart deal, which was completed in 2008, was under the Bush administration, U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta. That's why Alex Acosta resigned in the first Bush administration, because the Miami Herald had written this story in 2018 about how Epstein got away with so much. And then in 2019, the U.S. Attorney under President Trump, Jeff Berman in the Southern District of New York, then brought charges against him. So, I mean, there is stuff to say that you could point to that say, like, President Trump did this or President Trump did that.
And remember, in 2019, President Trump and his administration called for it to be unsealed at that time, too. It went silent and not.
Why didn't it get unsealed then? He called for it to be unsealed, and he was president, and
a word was said during the Biden administration. Not a word. Nothing was said during the Biden administration.
People can look it up. The sweetheart deal was 2008 during the George W. Bush administration. But I always appreciate your coming on the show. Senator Mullen, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
For 4 years under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the media didn't give a damn about the Epstein files or about the Epstein case. For literally 20
I wonder what changed. I wonder why they cared more with you guys than they cared with Biden.
years, the story about this scumbag, and he is a scumbag pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, but for 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations.
Why was it Obama and Bush? How does Trump not get any credit? Couldn't he have dug in on it more? When did Epstein kill himself? 2019? Wasn't Trump president for 2-3 years before that?
that failed to show full transparency. Donald J. Trump, I'm telling you, he's got nothing to hide. His administration has got nothing to hide, and that's why he's been an advocate for full transparency in this case. He's going to keep on being an advocate for full transparency, but while we're focused on that case, Donald J. Trump is also worried about making sure these great workers get more take-home pay and better jobs, and that's the focus of the administration.
America is back, baby. Wow. God, this disgusting traitor. What's her name? I always fuck her name up. She's got a weird name. Somebody say it in chat. Type it. She was one of the Dominion lying people. She was one of the crazier ones. Baratiromo? How do you say her name? Maria Bartiromo?
It's almost like a rite of passage on Maria Bartiromo's show.
Yeah, real quick, Congressman, before you go, President.
Wait, is Maria Bartiromo asking if Chinese authorities were...
Maria Bartiromo. Ugh.
I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals, and why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word treason. Is there a statute of limitations on treason?
Well, Maria, what I would say is this, is there is no doubt in my mind.
JVL at the Bulwark described JD as a person wearing exactly 19 pieces of flair. Base.
And that the people that we just talked about conspired. They conspired against President Trump. They conspired against the American people. And so I'll leave it to Pam Bondi and our Department of Justice, Kash Patel, and our FBI to investigate the conspiracy to do what and what charges that they're capable of bringing. But again, I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy. And Maria, part of why this is so important is the people behind this are still furthering the conspiracy. They're refusing to admit or acknowledge what they did in 2016 and what they did in 2020 was wrong. And so I think that's why this is so important and why I'm excited about what the American people will see very shortly and what's to continue to come.
We'll wait for that John Durham report.
Yes. True. If they honestly start arresting people, that's when we revolt, right? I feel like arresting Obama would be pretty crazy, because he still has all of the old aura from his 8 years as president. I don't know if people would tolerate it or not, but who the fuck knows?
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says deportation flights have started leaving the so-called Alligator Alcatraz facility. There were 100 detainees on the first flights. It's unclear where they're going.
It was never intended to be something where people are just held and we just kind of twiddle our thumbs. The whole purpose is to make this be a place that can facilitate increased frequency and numbers of deportations of illegal aliens.
So this facility is in the middle of the Florida Everglades. It's surrounded by really dangerous wildlife. So with the help of 3D models and the testimony of detainees, we're getting a sense of what life is like for the migrants there. Check out this investigation from CNN's Priscilla Alvarez.
This is sad, hopeless. It's a type of torture.
These are the stories of migrants held at Alligator Alcatraz, a new detention facility deep in the Florida Everglades. Using a plan of the site shown during President Trump's visit and photos from media tours and social media, CNN created a 3D model to take you inside the site.
Can I just say real quick, hold on. How dangerous are alligators really? Like, I know I've seen them like in the throes of killing shit, but if there was like a field of alligators, couldn't you just like run across? I feel like they kind of just lazy around most of the time. They're just like chilling. Like, are are these like really the apex predators that are running people down? Yeah, if you have to swim through alligator water, I feel like that would suck. But if you could like run on land the whole time, are they really chasing you down?
Hundreds of immigrant detainees are being held. Here are the giant tents where people report being crammed into cells made of chain link fence, packed with bunk beds. CNN spoke with 8 detainees to hear firsthand accounts of what conditions are like on the inside. Some asked not to be named for fear of retribution.
Because of the way that we have been treated, it has been a very terrible experience.
Gonzalo Almanza Valdez was detained by ICE when he showed up for a meeting with his probation officer.
32 people per cell, or per cage, really, because this is a cage. It's a metal cage strapped in with zip ties.
3 open toilets are shared by dozens of men who say there's no running water or sewage system. Roger Moreno, who has lived in the U.S. for more than 30 years, told CNN the rain makes it worse.
The toilets, when it rains, they overflow, and the cells we're in fill up with sewage.
Every time it does rain and storm, the toilets clog up.
Detainees told CNN the lights are kept on 24 hours a day.
We can't sleep. I have to personally put a rag on top of my head to at least try to take a nap because the lights are so bright. There's 24 LED lights in the roof, and it's like shining bright.
I'm not really sure what the point is of reporting on stuff like this. If you're a liberal and you didn't vote for Trump, you're never voting for Trump no matter what. And conservatives like literally cheer for this stuff. Like it's very weird, but no, it can't be that bad. Because I'm trying to think. One criticism I've had of my good friends in Israel who pay me every single day, thank you, Mossad, is that they suck at doing propaganda. And some of the best Israeli propaganda was made by Hamas when they recorded shit and released it. And it was like, oh, these guys are kind of fucking deranged. And I wonder sometimes if CNN is doing like inadvertently like pro MAGA propaganda where it's like, yeah, these motherfuckers, when they're sleeping in cages, their shit floods every night. Fuck them, you know?
Martinez has lived in the U.S. for more than 20 years and was also picked up.
Someone said, Destiny, this shit would sway my dad. He legitimately almost voted for Kamala over an abortion out on CNN LeMayo.
By ICE at a routine meeting with his probation officer.
I no longer know when it's daytime or when it's nighttime. I don't sleep. It's affecting me mentally and physically.
The tents aren't.
The maximum speed of an alligator can reach is up to 35 miles per hour travel speeds on land. Show me a video of that. I don't believe you. 35 miles an hour for a retarded alligator? These guys look like they barely have a functioning brain.
Seal. You can see cracks in this image. And at the height of the hot Florida summer, that means the insects are relentless.
For like 10 feet bursts.
Yesterday, the air conditioning went out. We had the whole morning without air conditioning. Lots of mosquitoes came in because they get in from all sides.
Multiple detainees say they don't get enough food, though they're served 3 meals a day, and that water is limited.
Scan our bracelets, we go into the food hall. The food is very terrible here. Very, very, very small portions. People are having a hard time living here because like they're starving. Probably like a quarter cup of rice.
We've eaten as late as 10 at night. The food at night is cold too. There's never...
Are you willing to talk to a convoy? We'll get to that after the news segment. I think we have something scheduled tomorrow, maybe, or Wednesday. I think tomorrow, maybe.
A hot meal.
Showers are located in a separate tent, and opportunities to shower there are scarce, according to the detainees we spoke with.
All the showers are connected to the same water source. There's barely any water pressure. So we have to literally put ourselves on the wall right next to the water drainage so we can at least get hit with water.
Congresswoman Kat Kamek, well, the great news on the migrant children, finding them and making sure they're safe. But I want to start with the alligator Alcatraz and the deportation flights. It's crazy. So Democrats, you have open borders, you let terrorists, rapists, gang members get into the country and then fight any efforts to get rid of those people who shouldn't be here in the first place. But walk us through those deportation flights. What do you know about them and who's being deported?
Well, it's good to see you both. And yes, welcome to the real swamp, not the fake DC swamp. This is the real swamp, the Everglades. And if you...
Wait. Somebody said, look up Cuban crocodile gallop. Any updates on Tech Down? I messaged him on Discord. We traded 2 messages. I said I can chat whenever he wants.
Chiquita.
Oh my God.
There you go.
Okay, that's kind of adorable. But why is it running? I don't think these things don't even have not to be anti-vegan or whatever. I don't think they even have a conscious experience. Right? Aren't reptilian brains insanely simple? Do they not have the prefrontal cortex or something? Am I making this up?
Chiquita.
Alligators have been on this planet for 84 million years. They are literal peak apex predators. Really? Why don't you tell me the last movie an alligator is made? Or show me the last missile that an alligator put together. I'll wait. Tell me where alligators are at on their AI projects, okay? Jesus, fuck that shit.
What was that?
Okay, I believe you.
You can just imagine this establishment was put up in 8 days. That's what happens when you have people who are dedicated to the America First cause. And you have a singular runway that is now taking flight. We are actually moving people out of the country who never should have been here in the first place. And I would say, to the point that Kevin Guthrie, who is the executive director of the Florida Emergency Management, as well as Governor DeSantis, they have been stating that the conditions inside are actually better than many of the prisons. They have air conditioning in Alligator Alcatraz. More than 75% of prisons in Florida don't have AC. And so this constant.
That sounded like a really horrible self-report, if that's true. What? Is that true?
In Alligator Alcatraz, more than 75% of prisons in Florida don't have AC. And so this constant beating of the drum that these protesters are saying that, oh, the conditions are horrible. Give me a break. I would love.
I mean, that's pretty bad. That's like saying, like, these guys don't even get raped, and in 95% of prisons, the guards are raping the inmates, so they don't even have it that bad. Like, that would be a pretty bad thing if that's true. Like, what the fuck?
For these people to fight as hard as they are for illegal criminals in our country, I would love for them to fight for American citizens like they do illegals. But now that we have...
Oh, my God.
Flights underway, we're going to see this ramp up quickly. There's already thousands that are currently in the facility. We've seen more than 100 take flight today, and that is going to be a steady tempo around the clock, because when it comes to Florida, we don't play.
Well, you have almost 24 Democrat attorneys general who want to keep the money flowing to illegal migrants. They have sued President Trump and his administration over the policy that bars illegal aliens from accessing federally funded benefit programs.
October 11th, 2023. Most of Florida's prisons lack air conditioning, a persistent problem for decades, but this past summer's excessive heat has brought the issue to the forefront. Florida Department of Corrections Secretary Ricky Dixon addressed a group of state lawmakers Wednesday, saying that 75% of all housing units in Florida's corrections system currently do not have AC. Jesus.
Congresswoman Kamek, how do you see this? They're trying to say that this bars legal visa holders and even potentially U.S. citizens who lack government-issued IDs. I doubt it.
No, I'm not buying that for 1 second. Think back to what the entire Democrat agenda has been. It's not been a singular issue. It's always about dependency and control. Think about why they fought us so hard on basic ID just to vote. Then you couple that with an open border policy that let in more than 10 million illegals into our country over a 4-year period.
10
no
million.
vetting, no IDs, no biometrics, no nothing. These are the same people that want to make sure that they stay in control. That's why they're so anxious to put as many people on government programs so that they can stay in office. Because once you're on these programs, it's very unlikely that you're going to vote against your interests, right? So we see this as just another political ploy for these swamp-like creatures, these bureaucrats, these big blue city advocates to keep people on the rolls. Meanwhile, you have Americans who are actually on wait lists that just need a hand up, not a handout. But instead, they're doing handouts for illegals. It's absolutely crazy. It's the epitome of America last. And that is why I'm so proud of President.
What is your take on ID requirements when voting? I don't think there's a problem with it. They should just offer it for free. I think that if they were to couple those two things together, I think you'd have a hard time pushing back against that. You need an ID to vote. The federal government's going to automatically issue you a free ID if you just like sign up for one or whatever online or whatever, and then boom. I don't think there's necessarily a huge problem with that if you want to do it. Well, the only problem might be that states have the right to determine that and not the federal government. I don't know if I would want states to give that power up to the federal government, but
President Trump and governors like Governor DeSantis, Governor Abbott, people who are willing to put Americans first.
Absolutely.
That's what we should be fighting.
And the big, beautiful bill, what you did with that. And trying to shore up Medicaid for the disabled and children and those who deserve it and need it. Congresswoman Kat Kamek, thank you so much.
Jesus Christ.
Armed masked.
I think we already watched this one, right? Or is this another one?
Oh no! Oh no! I'm being blasted! These motherfuckers are good. Oh, fuck. Come on, bro. Come on. Let's do this shit.
How much is it to get your social security card? I'm not sure, but I don't know if a social security card counts as an identification because there's no photo on it.
Dude, they have Alpha on their thing, and it's a fucking Ford with a fucking it's a Ford, and it has Alpha something, and the phone number is something something. Alpha Green, it's Alpha Green, it's Alpha Green, it's Alpha Green, it's Alpha Green. The Explorer is trying to hit me, he's following me. It's called Alpha Green. The business is called Alpha Green, and he's trying to hit me right now with his car. It's a Ford Explorer, and he's gonna try to block me in right now. His license plate is 77DF556. Ah, he's gonna hit me. Fuck. He is pulling a weapon on me. He's pulling a weapon on me. He's pulling a weapon on me. He's pulling a weapon on me.
Okay.
He's letting me in. He's letting me in. He's letting me in. He's letting me in. Oh no! I'm being blasted.
Wait, is she? I'm sorry. Hold on. Is she following them around, or are they following her around? I can't tell. Sorry, I wasn't watching chat. I don't get what's happening. Oh, I think she's following him around. Okay, I don't know. This lady seems autistic as fuck. I'm not sure. Okay.
Town, I have to tell you one of my favorite things. New sheriff in town, I have to tell you, one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube these days are the court hearings where illegals are in court and ICE shows up to drag them out of court and deport them. I can think of nothing more American today than keeping our streets safer by getting those violent criminals out of the United States of America, and we all have Donald J. Trump to thank for it.
It's just like, this is just like an unhinged... like, this is just like the demented, evil, unhinged thing to say. But okay. An immigration lawyer asked ICE for help. She said they gave her the number for Taco Bell. Well, what did he ask for help with? Maybe he said he was hungry, and it made sense. I'm guessing this was a wrong number. I'm guessing. Chatterjee felt it was a prank this ICE officer had played before because of how quickly he provided the phone number. She did not know where the agent was based. Governors Walz and Kelly to leave the National Governors Association, citing lack of bipartisan initiatives. Sources say 2 prominent Democrats are stepping away from a national bipartisan organization that brings together the chief executives of all 50 states, citing a lack of pushback to Trump administration policies and to some recent threats to state funding and operations. Nice. Further dividing us, yes. I wonder how much they were paying in dues to be part of this National Governors Association thing. I don't think any, Republicans are just incapable of saying anything bad about any Trump initiative ever. It's actually so crazy. I worry sometimes that we're in the moment. If we got to the concentration camps and the insane shit in a year from now, I think we would look back over the past like 10 years and say it was obvious from the first Trump admin what was happening. And then we would probably feel like really, really stupid where we're at right now. Like, we're like, fuck. Like, it would be pretty embarrassing to explain to your children, like, wait, so you guys let the guy take over? Like, how? What happened? It's like, I don't know, man. We didn't, it just didn't seem possible that he could be so crazy. It's like, you really? The alligator Alcatraz guy? Like, I thought it was just a meme. But yeah, the alligator Alcatraz guy. U.S. public opinion on immigration has moved left. Voter. Oh, this guy had the tweet. Wait, who has the tweet that I brought up with Connor? Because I think this guy is the one who tweeted it. That like everybody basically benefits socially from shitting on Democrats. I think this was the guy who made that tweet. Somebody link it. Even as public opinion on immigration has moved left, voters still trust Republicans to handle the issue better than Democrats by a 17-point margin, according to a new Wall Street Journal poll. In some cases, the disparities are striking. Disapproval of Trump's handling of inflation outweighs approval by 11 points, and yet the GOP is trusted more than Democrats to handle inflation by 10 points. By 17 points, voters disapprove rather than approve of Trump's handling of tariffs, and yet Republicans are trusted more than Democrats on the issue by 7 points. I think Democrats are still looking for a direction and a leader and a just like a clear idea of what they are or what they stand for. I think Democrats, it feels like they still haven't found that. Why do you think Democrat approval ratings are so low, even lower than Trump's? I think it's a proxy. I don't think it's that Democrat approval ratings are low necessarily. I think it's just that like nobody even knows like what the Democrats stand for. So like the fact that Republicans are doing literally anything is, my guess is going to mean that people will say, I trust them more to fucking do something. Because like when you think of like the Democratic Party right now, like who do you think of? Like who embodies that? If there's nobody there, I mean, how can you trust them to do anything, you know? So Trump is like a negative, what, 8-point rating on the economy, but he's preferred by 11 points in the handling over the Democrats. Preference for Republicans over Democrats is higher even on like healthcare and vaccines. Jesus. Even in foreign policy, Ukraine. Jesus. A textbook negative impact of tariffs as other countries will retaliate given the reality that blanket protectionist policies are bad for everyone involved. Why would nations retaliate at all? Because you don't want to get fucked exclusively by just one side, so you'd want to fuck over everybody. I'm looking at the large amount of money owed by the Democrats after the presidential election and the fact that they admit to paying, probably illegally, $11 million to singer Beyonce for an endorsement, $3 million for expenses to Oprah, $600,000 to very low-rated TV anchor Al Sharpton, a total lightweight. You're not allowed to pay for an endorsement. It is totally illegal to do so. Can you imagine what would happen if politicians started paying people to endorse them? Yeah, you have to do it in an openly corrupt manner like Trump does with Trump coin. networks aren't allowed to be political pawns for the Democrat Party. It has become so outrageous that, in my opinion, their licenses could and should be revoked. MAGA. Like, imagine this after the Dominion lawsuit with Fox News. Imagine this after Fox News is literally employing Trump's children. But, okay. Jesus. Good one. Just revealed, President Trump's golf swing is being shown off in Scotland, and people are amazed at his form for somebody nearly 80 years old. Democrats have spent months trying to say he's not fit for office. Is golfing well? That means you're fit for office? Wow. What an absolute god. Thank God we have all of our MAGA influencers to tell us how amazing Donald Trump's swing is. Jesus. Imagine being 79 with 5 children and 11 grandchildren playing golf better than most 20-year-olds. The left can't stand this. True. My God, it triggers us so much to see how great Trump is at golf.
When are the people of the United States of America going to start standing up for God? Do you think that our Lord wants these children to be starving? And Mr. Trump, I am so very disappointed in you. I voted for you, and you have just turned us into a bunch of hateful, mean, horrible people. And it's just, I know we've got too many immigrants in this country, but my goodness, we don't have to be mean to them. That's not what this country is built on. I probably won't be here for the next election.
Right.
But my goodness, I'll never, ever vote Republican, and I've been voting for 80 years. I don't know. This country's just going in the wrong direction. It just saddens my heart.